There can be no outward reactions whatsoever to the verdict. These folks are here against their will. They, all the lawyers, Ms. Richins, every attendee, my court staff, the bailiffs, everybody deserves your respect. There simply cannot be any outward reactions. You have to keep your hands folded in your lap. If you feel overcome with emotion, just look down. We cannot have any outward reaction. Second, once the verdict is read and the jury is discharged, you need to stay seated and follow the deputy's instructions about how we will leave the courtroom in an orderly fashion. If anybody in here can't follow these instructions, this is your chance to leave. All right. Fair warning, counsel, Ms. Richins, it is my practice to ask all the lawyers and the defendant to stand in respect for the jury as I read the verdict. I just don't want you to be surprised. Okay. Mr. Bloodworth, are we ready for the jury?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Lewis?
We are.
All right.
And right now you're looking at breaking news, a verdict about to be read in the trial of the Kouri Richins accused of fatally poisoning her husband. The jury has now been let into the courtroom. They've been deliberating for no more than 3 hours this afternoon as the closing arguments wrapped up, and we'll wait to hear what the verdict is.
Ladies and gentlemen, would the foreperson you've selected please stand? May I ask you a yes or no question? Has the jury reached a unanimous verdict?
Yes, we have.
Would you please hand the verdict form to the deputy, and you can have a seat. Thank you. I'll take that. All right. Counsel, Ms. Richins, please stand. Count 1, aggravated murder. We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Kouri Richins, is guilty of aggravated murder. We, the jury, unanimously agree that the prosecution has proved the following circumstance or circumstances regarding count 1 beyond a reasonable doubt. The homicide was committed for pecuniary gain, and the homicide was committed by means of the administration of any substance administered in a lethal amount, dosage, or quantity. Count 2, attempted aggravated murder. We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Kouri Richins, is guilty of attempted aggravated murder. We, the jury, unanimously agree the prosecution has proved the following circumstances regarding count 2 beyond a reasonable doubt. The attempted homicide was committed for pecuniary gain. Count 3, insurance fraud. We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Kouri Richins, is guilty of insurance fraud. Count 4, insurance fraud. We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Kouri Richins, is guilty of insurance fraud. Count 5, forgery. We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Kouri Richins, is guilty of forgery. It's signed by the foreperson. Please have a seat. Madam Foreperson, is this the verdict that the jury reached unanimously?
Yes, it is.
Okay, you may have a seat. Ms. Lewis, Ms. Nestor, do you wish the jury to be polled?
Yes, please.
All right. Folks, I'll ask you the same yes or no question, one at a time, starting on my left, working this way. Front row first. If you could show me your lanyard number as I ask you. Juror number 5, is this the verdict you voted in favor of?
Yes.
Juror number 4, is this the verdict you voted in favor of? Juror number 3. I can't see your number, I'm so sorry. The foreperson, I just need to ask you again, I'm sorry. Juror number 2.
Yes, it is.
Juror number 1.
Yes, Your Honor.
Sir. Juror number 8.
Yes.
Juror number 7.
Yes.
Juror number 6.
Yes.
All right. Counsel, is there anything further on this case before the jury is discharged? Mr. Bloodworth.
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Ms. Lewis. Ladies and gentlemen, this trial is now finished. Thank you for your service. The American system of justice relies on your time and your sound judgment, and you have been generous with both. You serve justice by your fair and impartial decision. All of my previous admonitions are now lifted. You may speak about this case with anyone or with no one at all. It is entirely up to you. You might be contacted in the future by the press or by the lawyers. You do not have to talk with them or with anyone else, but you may if you would like. The choice is yours entirely. I'm now turning to the attorneys and instructing them to honor your wishes as officers of the court if you indicate that you do not want to talk about this case. If you do talk about the case, please respect the privacy of your fellow jurors. The confidences they may have shared with you during deliberation are not yours to share with others. Thank you, all of you, for your service. Please rise for the jury.
And you're watching breaking news, a guilty verdict on all charges in the Kouri Richins trial, accused of killing her husband, guilty on aggravated murder, guilty on attempted aggravated murder charges, 2 insurance fraud charges, the jury finding Kouri Richins guilty, along with forgery. As you can see there, she just heard the verdict being read just moments ago. This after closing arguments today, and jurors having this case for no more than 3 hours. Andres Gutierrez standing by now, all of us listening to this verdict. Andres, what are your thoughts?
Well, at this point, she is going to be facing 25 years to possible life in prison on that first count of aggravated murder that she was found guilty of, and that is for allegedly putting in 5 times the legal dose of fentanyl into that Moscow Mule that Kouri Richins had back in March of 2022. The second count, where she was found guilty of aggravated murder, that is for the Valentine's Day attempted poisoning, where she tried to put fentanyl into a bagel sandwich on that day. And then the counts 3 to 5 regarding the fraud of insurance and also forgery that has to do with her secretly opening nearly $2 million worth of life insurance policies on Eric Richins. In one of them, she ended up apparently going back and forth and changing the beneficiary on a policy. And the defense had argued, saying that anyone with the login credentials for that life insurance policy could have made the changes, that there was no direct tie to that. But the prosecution says that she was $4.5 million in debt, that she was flipping these houses but wasn't successful at it. And at the same time, she was also carrying out this affair with their handyman that was helping her flip these homes. And so she had the motive to get rid of Eric and kill him, and also had the access to do so. Supposedly, the key witness for the prosecutor here was the housekeeper who allegedly applied Kouri with the fentanyl that was used to poison him. But the defense has said that this key witness was essentially someone who had changed had been coached overall on how to give her testimony. So at this point, we are waiting to see when sentencing will happen, but it seems like she may be spending the rest of her life in prison, Juliet.
Yeah, this was a weeks-long trial. The defense did not call any witnesses. She did not take the stand, but a number of people of her husband's family did, the housekeeper, facing several questions in this. And I might add, Andres, that a lot of this came to light because she had written a children's book following the death of her husband and her children's father to kind of talk about grief. And that came to light. And she was even on news channels talking about this book she wrote shortly before her arrest. And so that first came to light. And then all of this ensued with her being charged with his murder. And now today, the guilty verdict handed down. And I might add, the jurors did not know that she was in custody, but she has been behind bars this entire time, correct?
That is correct. So they weren't aware of that, but she has been behind bars as they waited to get this trial going. 13 days of testimony, and yes, it was at points where there was very emotional testimony, including when that handyman ended up taking the stand, Josh Grossman, where these very intimate text messages came to light, in which they were planning to essentially have a life together after Eric was out of the picture. Of course, on the stand, Josh Grossman said that he was not aware that that was in the plans, or even that they were even thinking that she was going to be carrying out a possible murder here, but she was planning a future with him indeed.
Yes. And in the courtroom right now are Eric Richins' family members, his sister, his father, I believe his stepmother, and also family and friends. I don't see those on Kouri Richins' side, but I just didn't identify them right there. And as the verdict was being read, Andres, I was trying to really look at her reaction. It was very stoic. You could see her kind of look down. The judge made, stern orders not to have any reaction in the courtroom, but you could tell, obviously, she's visibly disappointed and stoic in her own right. And you could see some people in the courtroom there emotional that this has been a guilty verdict.
And that has been the case the entire time, where she has had this stoic look, and her defense team has been trying to get a mistrial to be declared throughout the duration of this 13 days that they had this testimony. Even during closing arguments, they were trying to declare a mistrial. It is likely that they will appeal this case down the road. They will try to find if there's some type of technicality, but that is exactly what a defense team is supposed to do. We will see how that all plays out after sentencing is set. But even in them asking to poll the jury, that is something that the defense requested them to do. They wanted to make sure that everyone was indeed unanimous in their decision to convict and find Kouri Richins guilty. But at this point, it is likely that this will be appealed down the road. But for the time being, we're waiting to see how Kouri Richins will not be seeing her 3 children, because in the midst of all this, there are 3 kids that have not been able to see their mom and now don't have a father. And yes, you talked about that children's book that she ended up writing, and the prosecution said essentially she was trying to portray herself as this grieving widow, just exactly as they played that 911 call where they're saying that, you know, it wasn't someone that sounded like that they needed, so they were in distress. They were trying to essentially already portray herself as a widow as she was making that call to dispatchers on the day that Eric died.
All right, as we look at the courtroom, the Utah jury finding Kouri Richins guilty on all charges. Sentencing will be handed down in the next few weeks. They have not made a complete date on that, but just 3 hours of deliberations for the jury. Andres Gutierrez, thank you so much for standing by and waiting as this jury came to its conclusion and the verdict was read. Obviously, no winners in this, with a mother who's now going to be behind bars for a lifetime and the father who was killed. And we'll have more on this. But again, the verdict has been reached, guilty on all charges in the Kouri Richins murder trial. More news is next. You're watching CBS News 24/7, the #1 free streaming news service in America.
Chilling with the queen, her name is Gail King.
Hey!
CBS Morning.
CBS Morning.
CBS Morning.
CBS Morning.
CBS Morning.
CBS Morning. CBS Morning.
CBS Mornings on CBS and